Good evening, and welcome to the second session of Omantel TechLive. Last time, we explored how cloud is reshaping how Omani organizations work. Today, we turn to the question that keeps many business leaders awake at night. How do we keep all of that secure? Here is the reality. In a single recent year, countries around the world record hundreds of cyber incidents. And the curve is rising, not falling. And as of this year, cybersecurity in Oman is no longer just good practice. With the Personal Data Protection Law now fully enforceable, a breach is not only an operational problem. It is a legal and financial one, with penalties that reach into the hundreds of thousands of riyals. So the question is no longer are we a target. If your business is in the digital space, you already are. The real question is, are we ready? Today we'll work through these simple ideas: how to protect before an incident, how to detect when something's wrong, and how to respond when it happens. And then look ahead at how AI changes everything. And I have exactly the right people with us to help us through these important questions. Let me introduce you to our panel very quickly. Dr. Amr Al-Manji, welcome. Dr. Amr Al-Manji, Manager of Information Security, Compliance, and Audit at Asyad Group, and a certified information systems security professional with over 11 years spanning network security, cryptography, and governance, risk, and compliance. Dr. Amr brings view from inside one of Oman's largest organizations and an independent perspective on what real-world resilience looks like. Next, we have Mohammed Al-Ajmi, Senior Manager of Cybersecurity Operations at Omantel. Welcome, Mohammed.
You're welcome.
Mohammed leads a team that protects our critical national telecommunications services every single day. So when we talk about detecting and defending against attacks at scale, he's speaking from the front line. Last but not least, we have Khalid Al-Miskari. Welcome, Khalid.
Thank you very much.
Khalid sits at the heart of the cybersecurity practice at OTEC, part of the Omantel group. Khalid works with organizations across different sectors, public sector, utilities, energies, and government, to turn technical capability into practical business-ready security solutions. His work spans the full spectrum from protection right through proactive security. Welcome, everyone, and it's nice to have you here with us.
Thank you.
So we'll start where every security conversation should, with prevention. Because the truth is, the best time to deal with an attack is long before it happens. I'm going to start with you, Dr. Amr. Let me begin. You work across risk, compliance, and audit at Asyad. So you see this from the front line of major Omani enterprise. What are the cyber threats you see Omani organizations genuinely face today?
Firstly, thank you, Osama, for having me on this panel. The threat landscape in Oman has expanded in recent years, and I believe organizations face business email compromises. They face ransomware, multiple extortions, and third-party dependent attacks. Third-party dependent attacks usually small and medium enterprises. They do not invest in security controls, maybe because they are very costly to them. But the organization, they currently they do not exist alone. They coexist with other organizations, so they work together. And small and medium businesses, SMEs, are the door to the big organizations. So if one organization or one SME gets breached, the attacker can move to the bigger organization, and this is well known in the industry now.
Mohammed, you sit at a vantage point almost no one else sees in the country. Defending a national telecom network, you see threats across Oman as they emerge. From that nationwide view, what patterns or attacks are you seeing that individual businesses looking only at its own systems would never notice?
Well, first, thank you, Osama, for having me on this webinar. At Omantel, actually, we are observing many cybersecurity threats targeting the country and targeting the cyberspace. I'll name a few of the top threats that we are dealing with. The dominant cybersecurity attacks that we are seeing on daily basis is DDoS attacks, which is the distributed denial of service attacks. And I can share key insights and observations about DDoS attacks in the past couple of years. Uh, the attacks were more targeting the banking sectors, oil and gas field sectors, but now it's literally targeting every entities, including the SMEs, small and medium-sized companies. Second insight is that the volume of DDoS attacks got increased. In the past, we were dealing with, let's say, 10 gigabit per seconds up to 50 gigabit of seconds. Now, this amount of volumetric DDoS attacks got tripled. So we are dealing with hundreds of gigabyte per seconds of attacks. Third, also, in the past, these kind of attacks stay for a couple of minutes, where maybe the organizations or the customers, they will not feel the interruptions or disruptions. But now, in some cases, one DDoS attacks, it will stay for a couple of hours, which will cause that, will bring that service online and offline, and it will cause that disruptions. Also, what we have seen when it comes to DDoS attacks, the attacks becomes more evolved, more adapt, more changing in its nature, where the traditional and classical security perimeters controls may fail to detect and prevent. Hence, we need like a specialized technologies in order to detect such advanced DDoS attacks and prevent it at the first place. That's number one as a threat we are observing. Also, we are observing many of identity-based attacks where, as mentioned by Dr. Amr, many organizations, especially SMEs, got compromised through their business email and even through, let's say, social engineering or whatever kind of techniques in order to get only one valid credential, it leads to compromising the entire organizations. And from these organizations, the attacker just trying to spread over, let's say, the country or targeting another entities within the country. Third, also still we are observing ransomware operations. So many organizations being hit by ransomware groups. And what I can say when it comes to ransomware, every organizations must have their offline backup and test these offline backup from time to time, of course, alongside the other preventive security controls. However, the offline backup is like the last resort in such cases or crises. Fourth, we have seen many of brand impersonation attacks where there are active and ongoing campaigns to, let's say, steal the banking informations, personal informations, credit card informations by tricking and abusing, let's say, the mobile banking apps, any service or utilities, service provider applications, digital channels, in order to steal this kind of information. In a nutshell, what I can say, the attacks got increasing and increasing, and it became much coordinated, more coordinated, and well organized comparing to the past. So also what we can say during, let's say, the first half of this year, due to the geopolitical tensions, there was like a spike of the cyber attacks to our cyberspace. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And of course, I think something related to this is AI, which we will come back to.
Yeah.
Moving on to Khalid, when an organization is building its security foundation from the ground up, what are the first controls that genuinely matter? The true essentials, not a 40-item checklist. What are the essentials that an organization needs?
Thank you, Osama, and thank you for having me here. Well, as being part of OTEC Cybersecurity, we don't see only the enterprise side as well. We see also the SMBs and people who are not well funded in order to create this super cybersecurity department and have all the controls in place. So, what we suggest to companies who are starting their cybersecurity is to focus on the critical assets and critical items and controls that need to be there to prevent most of these attacks. So by focusing on 5 items in this right order, you can actually prevent not all, but at least a majority of the attacks that are coming. So let me start. There are 5. So start with know what you have. So your asset inventory, your asset database, know exactly how many, network devices, infrastructure devices that you have, and who has access to them. So what you have, who has access to what. Okay, make sure that these are actually also secure, having multi-factor authentications, having a way to actually monitor and control these accesses, especially from geopolitical, regions. If somebody is moving out to a certain area, you can control it. Third of all, patching. So if your systems are fully patched, it's difficult because we see vulnerabilities coming every day, and they're publicly known. So, the organizations, they actually announce the vulnerabilities for actually showing people that this is what we found and this is how to fix it. So if you ignore this, people know actually how to get into your environment, especially if I know what assets you have. Number four is actually also important, which is people. There is one which I missed. Okay, so know what you have, who has access,
Yeah.
patching. Let's continue with people. So if you have people who are not aware or cyber aware of how to protect themselves, especially in email. So we've seen phishing attacks with one link that actually causes a catastrophic impact to organizations, either from ransomware, either from theft of identity, illegal access to assets. So those are things. When I remember the fifth, I'll come back to you on that.
Thank you, Khalid. Maybe a follow-up question, Khalid.
Sure.
Not all businesses have the resources, whether that's capital, or human resources, to build everything in-house. When does it make sense for an organization to bring in a partner?
See, when you're building your cybersecurity, you divide it into two parts.
Yeah.
One is your core, your critical assets, your critical services, things that you don't want to give away, which is, your GRC, for example, your assurance, your oversight. You don't want to give that to anyone. You want to keep it in-house. But when you go in depth, so having a SOC is not really mandatory to have a full-fledged SOC, especially if you're starting in this journey. So you start with something that's core. First, your governance part, your assurance part, and that's where it makes sense because you want to stay in control. You don't want to give that control to a third party. And as Dr. Amr and Mohammed also mentioned, that most attacks come from the SME third parties. So you don't want to go and divert and give that access away as well.
Thank you, Khalid. So we've heard where the risks are and how to build a strong foundation. But here's the uncomfortable reality. No defense is perfect. Sooner or later, something gets through. And when it does, the question becomes, how fast do you even know it's happening? So Mohammed, you lead cybersecurity operations at Omantel. As we mentioned, you defend, critical national services against a huge, volume of attacks. Why is early detection so critical, for whether in your field or any field?
Well, Osama, early detection is, as you just mentioned, is super critical, and the reason is why that nowadays cyber attacks and threat actors are moving extremely fast. As per the latest CrowdStrike report, the breakout time dropped to 29 minutes. Basically, the breakout time, the time required or needed by the attackers in order to get into the organizations, then laterally moved and then maybe exfiltrate the data. So the entire attack journey, it took like half an hour, which is a really a critical matter. So hence, early detection is not just like a technical capabilities, it becomes like a business resilience capabilities because the faster you detect, the faster you contain the incident is the smaller impact on your customers, services, reputations, hence an exposure. So in today's cybersecurity centers world, 1 minute actually matter because in that 1 minute, you can prevent the cybersecurity incident from becoming a business crisis.
Maybe another question for you, Mohammed. Are there specific warning signs that a business may already be compromised without knowing it?
Well, a real warning signs will not be always a red flag or a high severity alerts. In many cases, many organizations and businesses already being compromised and the things looks normal at the surface. And the reason is why the modern cybersecurity attacks, the modern tactics became really hard to detect because it's the threat actor exploiting, let's say, the trust, or using, let's say, a legit credentials or a legit software, what we call it, living of the land utilities, which is normal to the environment, embedded within the systems and platforms. As per the latest report, also from CrowdStrike, uh, in the last year, 2025, more than 82 of the detected, let's say, attacks, they were malware free. That's mean the attacker just using, let's say, that valid identities, valid credentials in order to penetrate into an environment. So to detect such, let's say, a low profile attacks or highly evaded techniques, it's the key here is how to detect the changes in the behaviors within the environments, like abnormal data movement, suspicious logging, remote logging, maybe suspicious cloud activities, or unusual access from a privileged account. If you gather all of these weak signals together, it can tell you the bigger pictures. And the key here, how you can automate the process from detections to response in order to speed up, again, the detections and the response part.
Thank you, Mohammed. Khalid, back to you. Not every business can build and staff its own round-the-clock security monitoring. For those that can't, what are their practical options available to them, and what does getting started with, a security operations center or managed detection actually involve?
Well, Sama, you're right. Nobody can actually buy a security operating center and staff it and operate it and run it and manage it and maintain it. So this is why we have the concept of renting it out. So security as a service. So we have a managed security service, or there's another one which is managed detection and response. So that's an MDR service. So here is where actually you hire an expertise or a team of expertise who have the tools, the technology, the resources, and the threat intelligence to actually provide you what you need as an output, instead of having the process and then you also learn of the whole process.
Yeah.
And as Mohammed was mentioning as well, it's not only the tools.
Yeah.
There are lots of different techniques used, and you have different frameworks that they build on, and the automation is also part of it. So now with AI coming in, it's actually also becoming more of a challenge. I think that we will also
Yes.
deep dive there
Yeah,
in the future as
we
well.
will.
Yes.
We will. So Khalid, a typical organization now spans like on-prem systems, multi-cloud, remote work. Where does visibility usually break down for organizations?
Visibility actually goes into the between.
Yeah.
So when you have things that are not visible,
Yeah.
so when you have things that are not cataloged into certain places, so you can have on-prem and on cloud as well, but having them segregated in different areas without a proper mechanism of actually having the asset, inventory
Yeah.
known and also onboarded into your security tools.
Yeah.
That is where the challenge becomes.
Yeah.
It's always visibility, and whatever you cannot see, you cannot protect.
That's very true. So spotting a threat, early can be the difference between a minor incident and a major one. But detection is only half the story. What happens in the hours after you discover an attack often decides how much damage is done to your operations, to the trust of your customers. And let's talk about maybe responding and recovering, which is our third topic. So Mohammed, I want to get back to you. And talk to us from a national operator point of view. Staying online and trusted through an incident, it's not something that is optional. The country depends on the services you provide. How does Omantel maintain operational continuity and protect trust while responding to an attack?
Well, as you mentioned, Osama, as for being, let's say, national operators, being available and online is just not like an option, and it's not like a business objective. It's like a national responsibility. So, and maintaining cyber resiliency during the cyber attacks is really a crucial objective. So I can summarize it in three phases where we need to be prepared, then recover, then respond to these attacks, and also recover. Of course, before the incident occur, we need to have the preparations, the visibility, the incident response plan, which is integrated to the business continuity plan, internal alignment, RASI, as mentioned previously by Dr. The clear roles and responsibilities, the level of engagements, communication plans, it should be all clear and should be tested from time to time and should be simulated. And when the real cybersecurity attacks hits, that's mean you need to assess the impact first and then stop that attacks from spreading across the environment, and then of course containing that incident or attack while you are maintaining the critical services, even either from the primary locations or from redundant locations based on the incident severity and its dependencies, and then of course to recover the surface safely. So being a cyber resilience here does not mean that you will be immune against cyber attacks or you will not be, let's say, a targeted or a compromised. It's how efficient and fast you recover from such incidents.
Thanks for that, Mohammed. Dr. Amr, I would like to ask you from a compliance and governance standpoint, what should every organization have ready before an incident? Not a theoretical framework, but what are the essentials basically?
The first step is to have a tested incident response plan. I mean, tested with clear responsibility and accountability, and a clear decision-making authority. Secondly is, or parallel, every organization must to have a mission-critical inventory. And what I mean by mission-critical inventory, it means that the application needed for the mission of the organization. So there is a concept called minimum viable business or minimum viable organization. So what you need for your mission. Plus, every organization must have offline backup, immutable backups. I also see that every organization has to have breach notification procedures with regulators if any incident happens.
Yeah. Khalid, of course, when an incident hits, many organizations, find their plan works better on paper. Of course, when people are under pressure, it's a different reality. What does real readiness, actually look like?
Well, see, let me make it even easier. Omantel is hacked.
Yeah.
What do we do? See, it's a reaction. So it cannot be actually a paper thing. It has to be muscle memory.
Yeah.
So the muscle memory, this is where actually you have to do the drill tests, you have to do the tabletop exercises, you have to have a single person the single person who is responsible when this happens. You cannot decide who is going to take charge during the attack.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be documented, authorized, acknowledged by everyone, agreed, and then we go ahead and do the actions which we documented in the paper. Okay, something else that both of them are actually touched on is the backups. Now the backups, we know that we're doing backups. Did we restore these backups to make sure that they actually work? Mm-hmm. Now this is the challenge where a lot of organizations in the past, have already backups ready. But when something happens as a critical, attack to their infrastructure, the backup is not there. Mm. And something went wrong. The system says it's backed up and it's green, but actually nothing is there. And they cannot recover those information. And something else, we do have a law that is a PDPL law for service providers and people who hold personal data, especially to the citizens. Mm. No, we have the obligation to inform our regulators, CDC, for example, on what's going on. So it cannot be after the fact. It has to be during the fact, during the process as well. And that is where it's critical. And there is another point that is not mentioned, but it can also be a part of the preventive and part of the plan, is to raise the cost of hacking. So when you hack any organization or to harm it or any malicious actor comes in, there is a cost to it. There's a cost to defend and there's a cost to attack. So sometimes having a plan to actually increase the cost of attack can actually be some type of prevention. Mm-hmm. Or during the attack to slow down the attack. Mm-hmm. So it's also there.
So Khalid, I think a lot of organizations will be asking, when does it make sense to bring in a partner for incident response? What is the formula organizations can use to decide, that question?
It's always advised
Hmm.
to bring in someone. Not all organizations actually were attacked in the past,
Hmm.
but having a partner who already experienced that threat, that rush, that actual response, the muscle memory that we're talking about, is good to have as a standby, as a retainer. Imagine, this crisis is like a fire that comes in.
Hmm.
It's always good to call the fire department, even
Hmm.
though you have, all the tools you need to extinguish the fire yourself,
Hmm.
and you have a plan in place,
Hmm.
and you have a warden,
Hmm.
and you have first aider. But still good to call sometimes. And sometimes they assist you in actually mitigating the after action as well.
Hmm. Hmm.
In restoring and making sure that everything is there, nothing is compromised, nothing is lingering back after the attack.
Yeah, I think that's a very good metaphor. The firefighter metaphor.
Yeah.
So we looked at protect, detect, and respond. And I think there is something lingering in the air, which is AI and the role it's playing with cybersecurity. Of course, everybody's going to be wondering, might have questions related to this. So Mohammed Al-Ajmi, let's turn to what's coming. Agentic AI is everywhere right now. The shift from AI that chats to an AI that acts on its own. In
Yeah.
plain terms, what does it mean? Is it already in our lives, and how much is it impacting?
Yeah, agentic AI, it's already there
Yeah.
actually. As per, let's say, last year, let's say, reports, there were like 89% of AI-enabled attacks increase comparing to 2024. And I'm also expecting to be more even by this year. So the attackers and adversaries also operating in the agentic AI era, and they are utilizing and leveraging AI engines, platforms in order to create, let's say, a convincing email or a fake website. I mean, in the social engineering operations, they're using AI in discovery, reconnaissance phases, selecting the targets, exploiting the targets. It's already being used heavily. Even here in Omantel, one of the attacks attempts that we investigated recently, it was really something strange, where it was not driven by human and not, let's say, driven by automated scanner or automated pen test, because the pattern, how fast it was, how adaptive it was, taking the inputs, getting that input to the next stages, being extremely smart, adaptive, agile. This
Yeah.
is something that we didn't even witness in the last, let's say, 10 years.
Right.
So it's there actually, and it's being utilized, and also it's being leveraged to attack
Mhm.
our cyberspace. So it's being used heavily by the adversaries. This is the bad side of it. However, the good side of it, we are also leveraging the agentic AI when it comes to SOC. In
Mhm.
the past, we used to, let's say, take like a couple of hours or days even to investigate one case by collecting the logs, evidences, investigate these cases, then respond it. But now, thanks to agentic AI alongside of automations, it can just speed up the investigations. It can reduce mean time to detect, mean time to investigate, mean
Right.
time to respond. By this, you can stay ahead of attackers. As we mentioned, the breakout time dropped to 29 minutes. By leveraging the AI and automations,
Yep.
you can just stay ahead of the attackers in order to detect and respond to these threats. Yeah.
Right. Dr. Amr, I think from Muhammad's answer, as he mentioned correctly, agentic AI or AI in general can be used both ways, to defend and to attack. How real is this today? And what does an AI accelerated attack actually look like? Is it something that we should be fearful of right now, or is that still in the near future?
Hmm. There is a proverb, African proverb called the gazelle lion survival strategy.
Yeah.
So if someone is slower,
Yes.
uh, the gazelle will be eaten or the lion will be
Starving.
starving.
Yeah.
So there is a speed mismatch.
Right.
Now, what AI brings in the formula or in the equation is the speed mismatch, which is the offensive shift is getting faster than the defensive shift.
Right.
So As Muhammad said, 29 minutes for the breakout. What is bringing agentic AI from vulnerability discovery to exploitation?
Mhm.
This year is 1 day. Next year is expected to be 1 minute or 1 hour or 1 minute. Also, the volume of vulnerabilities. So, what I see now is it's real. It's currently the power is tilting to the offensive side.
Right.
Maybe we need to have more tactical and strategic defensive techniques to bring it to the balance, or there will be a survival strategy again balanced.
Right.
So,
Khalid, would you like to add anything to this?
Well, we know that the AI is coming.
Yeah.
Okay, if we like it or not.
yeah.
So it's not to go against the grain or against the waves, but you have to actually use AI in order to be as agile as the threat actors. And there is a small trick, I think, okay, that can actually stop the AI, generated attack even for milliseconds, so our security operating center can catch up, which is having a multi-factor authentication, and it is almost built into all the tools that we use in applications. So by having that, it does not stop the AI attack, but it gives us time to actually, see it from far away coming.
Mhm.
And then we can actually take proper actions in order to actually mitigate whatever plan it has planned for us.
I
Yeah.
want to add something
Yeah.
is
Go ahead.
that there are differentiated attacks, which is targeted attacks to organization, and there are undifferentiated attacks to which is opportunistic. So someone uh, by opportunity will be attack or
Yeah.
organization. What AI is bringing is that of lots of agents, they are doing lots of reconnaissance. There will be scale.
Mhm.
So the impact and the scale of the attack, it's not just only big organization, everyone, also SMEs.
Mhm.
So it's the quality and scale will bring from offensive side.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I
And
can add also one thing here when
yeah.
it comes to the indicator of the attacks.
Mhm.
If you recall, we mentioned, let's say, at the beginning of this webinar regarding the threat landscape targeting, let's say, Oman. So what we have seen, because what we have seen as, let's say, a trend changes, let's say, in the past, we were dealing, let's say, with millions of internet noise scanners, bots, which can stopped, of course, by the security perimeters. But now imagine with automated offensive operations using AI, we starting observing that the internet noise, the automated, let's say, and the automated, let's say, or AI-enabled attack phases got increased, and it's targeting every single connected assets, regardless how big or small is that
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's gonna continue to change the landscape and how cybersecurity professionals respond to these threats. Um, Dr. Amr, you know, who's really in control now in the AI age? As AI takes on more security decisions, how does an organization stay accountable for a decision an AI makes on its behalf? And of course, I think this question is gonna continue to be asked.
You can delegate the responsibility, but you cannot delegate the accountability. So, who is in control is the organization, and they should have frameworks, governance for AI. So, AI they can assist in decision makings, but they are not accountable. Who is in
Mhm.
control is the organization.
Yeah. Mohammed, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, just seconds, Dr.
Yeah.
Amr opinions.
Yeah.
AI can automate many things, can support in decision making, automating tasks,
Mhm.
achieving valuable, let's say, and meaningful, let's say,
Yeah.
deliverables. However, the accountability should always and must remain with the human.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we should also define that boundaries for AI, let's say, algorithms or workflows.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before moving on to the question and answer section of this webinar, maybe in one sentence from each of you, what's the single practical thing you'll tell organizations watching to do about AI? Starting today. Let's start with you, Dr. Amr.
To start to govern before operationalizing the AI.
Okay. So governance is key.
Yeah.
Mohammed?
Well, nothing to add here much, but it will be like a general advice
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter today whether you are targeted by AI or any kind of tactics or techniques procedures. At the end of the day, it's target to compromise, let's say, your organizations. So I will go for knowing your, let's say, crown jewels, the business critical, let's say, functions. You know, you define these assets or these services, then you just ask yourself one questions. If you get compromised, are you ready to detect? Are you ready to respond? And are you ready to recover that service in order to become alive? Whether you've been targeted by AI or any kind of threat, let's say technologies or tactics, I mean.
Okay. Going to the questions, I think we have some interesting questions. I'll start with you, Mohammed. I think this question you'll be able to best respond to. The question says, what are the biggest cybersecurity risks associated with employees using public AI platforms like ChatGPT or Claude or other LLMs in the workplace?
Well, when it came from risk perspective, and this is debatable and subjective,
Yeah.
and it's totally depend on the organization's policies, what's being acceptable, what's not being acceptable. I'm with using the AI, but we should use it responsibly. Now, each organization defines their policies or risk acceptance level based on their own, let's say, criteria or formulas. So I would say we should allow AI, but in a controlled manners. And the questions when it came to risk, it's subjective to the organizations,
Yeah.
their policies, their risk appetite.
Mhm.
They can maybe one organization can accept, let's say, the AI usage. They don't work on, let's say, sensitive, let's say, informations and or no critical, let's say, data. They might allow it. On the other side, one of the organizations, since they are dealing with let's say, PII related information, this is maybe not allowed. So this is really subjective, but for a critical organizations, of course, it should be controlled and it should be also monitored. And we need to avoid also utilizing all of these AI platforms. It's good and recommended for organizations. At least they use like one of the well-known AI engines, and they have the proper monitorings and proper compliance around it.
Um, uh, Doctor, as attackers increasingly leverage AI to automate phishing, malware development, and reconnaissance, how should defenders rethink their cybersecurity strategy? I think maybe this is an open-ended question, but if you have any thoughts.
I will leave this question for
Khalid?
Khalid.
Would you like to add to this?
Can you repeat the question?
Yes. So, as attackers increasingly leverage AI to automate phishing and malware, how should defenders rethink their cybersecurity strategy?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of tools that can detect if this is actually AI generated, especially in text generation or chat generation. So those are actually well known, especially with the characters they use sometimes and the way that it goes. But other than that, awareness is actually one of the key things, because even though Osama is a very good friend, but if he asks me for money at 3 a.m. It's really not reasonable. So you have to think of it in both ways. What is the actual context of the message, especially in phishing, because it's always very convincing and it's always there. But we have to also have that awareness and test that awareness with our people. For phishing simulations, we have the awareness platforms,
Yeah.
and now the platforms are now becoming AI, powered as well. So
Yeah.
we can actually know that this phishing is either AI or not. Even we can see the emails are written by AI or not. We don't object to it,
Right.
but we have to also have that mindset
Right.
of that not trust anything.
Yeah.
You have to have your trust level being, calibrated towards the new technologies that are coming in as well.
Doctor, you want to say something?
Yes, defenders, they need to recalibrate to bring it to the balance. So if the attackers, they use the agentic AI for red teaming activities, also they need to use the agentic SOC. They need to bring the agentic tools. So
Yeah.
I think they need to work in this direction.
Yeah, one thing also to add here, Osama, is leveraging, let's say, the next generation SOC or security stack in SOC is also a key. Today, most of the well-known, let's say, technology providers for SIM, XDRs, they came with embedded agentic AI capabilities. And that's really a crucial when selecting the right technology or the right partner. And they need to evaluate, let's say, the key metrics which will ensure that the SOC is efficient, like a fidelity rate. So usually the normal and classical tools will comes with a false positive rails.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to select, let's say, high fidelity rate tools. That's
Mm-hmm.
one. Also, you need to consider the main SOC metrics, like how much of time this tool needs to detect that attacks, or how much of time it needs to investigate, how much of time needs to respond. What we call the
MTTR.
MTEX,
Yeah.
MTTX.
Yeah.
Thanks, Khalid. So we need to consider these metrics while selecting the agentic AI or AI-powered SOC tool in order to stay ahead of time against the attackers. Yeah.
Khalid, I think we have a question here related to small businesses. Uh, you know, the question states, as a small business starting, is there affordable options for security? So maybe this is a concern regarding cost. How do you respond to, SMEs that have that question, and what is your advice for them to start looking at, resources or tools, or
Well,
getting the
yeah.
right things in place?
No, for SMEs, not only SMEs, for any organization, security is not about a cost. So security is actually a business enabler. So without security, it's very risky to do business. So now, let's change it from tool-based to mindset. So if I have a complex password, for example,
Hmm.
I don't need, a password protector or a password keeper. If I know how to actually, strategize the way of I'm putting a password in place. If I have a multi-factor authenticator applications on my device that mitigates some of the risks there. If I'm actually having an antivirus, which is a simple antivirus in my PC, it also mitigates some risk. So SMEs, they actually have the advantage. It depends on the business. If they are in the building of AI, that's different. But normal SMEs, they have the advantage of a small scale of people risk. So the more people you have, the higher your risk is, in terms of breaches, in terms of somebody doing something wrong, somebody clicking the wrong link. So awareness and the hygiene of your IT infrastructure, IT systems,
Yeah.
that is the easiest way and most cost-effective way to actually have it.
We have a lot of interesting questions. So we have a question from Faisal asking, as AI agents become more autonomous, where do you see them fitting in within a defense in-depth strategy? Should they be considered an additional security layer, or should they operate across multiple existing layers, such as detection, response, identity, and governance? To whoever wants to answer.
I believe we already maybe responded to these
Yes, yes.
questions. We need to consider the agentic AI to be embedded within the security stack. And one thing to add, we need to consider that agentic AI working on all, let's say, attack phases or incident response phases,
Mhm.
from the detections till to the response and recover. And we might also see agentic AI like running the assessment, how we did in that, let's say, incident handling, what are, let's say, the lesson learned we get from that, let's say, case. Maybe that's area it's still under development, but I'm sure we'll see it in future, where the agentic AI will assess itself and it will assess the human factor within the SOC environment.
Uh, AI is a probabilistic model, as Muhammad said.
Yeah.
It's self-learning. So, and I believe it's in all layers. So, application layer, data layer, network layer, um, endpoint layers we
Mhm.
have. So, I think in all layers,
Okay.
AI.
Yeah, and I have something to add as well. With AI and agentic AI coming in,
Yeah.
it now the human is not in line; he's on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the governance, the oversight has to be human. So the AI, even defense in depth, even as a responder or a tester,
Mhm.
it can be an agentic AI doing the testing and the protection as well, and the
Mhm.
responding and the mitigation, and also giving the reporting. But still, the human has to be on the line. So without the human factor, that means we are actually giving it the actual accountability and responsibility.
Thank you for that. I'm trying to go through the questions because we have so many good ones. I asked a question previously. What can businesses do today? We have an interesting question here that maybe rephrases that question. Um, if you could give business leaders one piece of advice to strengthen their cybersecurity in the next 12 months, what would it be?
Who wants to take this one? So I think I can start this one.
Yeah, go ahead, Khalid.
On a more commercial side as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have 12 months to actually strengthen your business, the single best thing to do is get an advisor. Somebody who can actually give you a roadmap, how to build your information security management system. It's called ISMS. Okay, how to build resilience. What is missing? Have a gap assessment in place, because you cannot start something where you don't know where you're going. And cybersecurity is a dynamic field. It's not static like cloud or IoTs that sits there for years. No, it's changing every month. Something new comes in. So now, if you want to say that I want to do it today, for the next 12 months, GRC or at least an ISMS or gap assessment is the key forward. That's from my perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same here. It's my advice will be to run, let's say, a comprehensive risk assessment on that organizations to understand all, let's say, threats, vulnerabilities, how likelihood that's, let's say, threat will compromise or exploit that vulnerabilities, to have that blueprint of, let's say, top threats or risk within the organizations. Of course, after you understanding your asset, etc., then you select your risk treatment strategy. What shall you do next? Whether you need to transfer the risk, the risk to different entities, like for the sake of example, buy an insurance, cybersecurity insurance, or no, you need to deploy security controls. In some cases, you might end up by accepting that risk because the cost of breach is less than the cost of implementing that control. So having risk assessment, then select the risk treatment strategy based on the top, let's say, risk. You need to select the right or corresponding controls.
Right. I would like to get back to you, Mohammed. I think this is a question that maybe for me as a marketeer, I often ask as well. So the question is from Fida. She asks, how can companies balance strong cybersecurity with maintaining operational efficiency without slowing down, business or production?
As you just mentioned, it should be always a balance. You should, as you mentioned by Khalid, a security function is a business enabler. Also, you need to maintain that security versus operations. And to be honest, this is not a simple matter. We are always in a fight with a business, with IT. This is the real story and it will remain. So it's always about the priorities. It's always about the risk factor. In some cases, maybe the risk is high or that cyber incident is a critical and I cannot afford allowing that maybe business to continue. Then it becomes also a decision, let's say a top management decision in some cases, whether they can accept that high risk and running, let's say, unsecure service or no. Let's say give the priority, let's say to take that service offline and take the right actions. It's something subjective to your risk appetite.
Right.
The balance between security and operation is also subjective to the organizations. So based on their priority, based on their business critical, I don't know, services, it's something, there is no like one fits all. It's something subjective, but scientifically you need to assess the risk. You need to prioritize accordingly.
And I'm sure organizations over time will, relook at those policies with, the different levels of threats that appear.
Yeah.
Khalid, you wanted to ask?
Well, I have something to add on to make it even easier to imagine. As somebody who's not cybersecurity or cybersecurity focused, imagine that it's you're driving in the highway. Okay, at 50 kilometers per hour. How important is your brake? It's important.
Of course.
But you can manage without. But imagine you're driving 200.
Yeah.
How important is your brake then?
It's very important.
Yes. So that is the same with security. So it's the scalability of your business. If you want to scale your business to the 200 kilometer per hour, then security becomes a priority to you. But if you're okay and your appetite is, I would like to be maintaining this low revenue, okay, and very safe business, then yes, security is not a big factor because the cost of security is higher than the cost of breach.
There is a question, I think, by Saad. If I get hacked, who can I call to help and guide me?
Oh, that's easy. You can call me. No, see, where there is ways that you can actually contact, and there are people. So it depends on the organization. Sometimes people they get confused. I'm hacked. What can I do? So there are organizations that give compromise assessments. So compromise assessments means that they will come in, they will do the full checkup of your assets, of your inventory, and see where is the compromise initiating, where did it start, how did it do, is there a recovery plan? And sometimes, we say, make dua.
Yeah. Doctor, I think this question you'll help answer. Which AI governance framework or international standard is considered most suitable for establishing AI governance within an organization, including the development of AI-related policies, standards, controls, governance, and processes?
Usually they are ISO or NIST. In
Yes.
ISO is ISO 4000, 42001, if I remember. And
Yes.
NIST, they have a new NIST AI framework. So, but usually ISO is the most popular one.
We keep getting more questions, and so I think. Uh, so a question from Walid. He said we said 82% of attacks are now malware free and 90% are more AI enabled. If the old signals are disappearing, what is the new red flag defenders should be watching for?
What
Well,
does he mean by disappearing?
No, maybe not disappearing, but maybe more AI enabled attacks are becoming more common ground. What should we be looking for?
If I understand the question, maybe there you have multiple defense layer of defense. So if one layer fails, so you can have multiple.
Multiple layers
So,
in
yeah.
place.
So you need to have multiple layer of defense.
Um, so we have another question here related to what is the biggest cybersecurity threat or challenge that businesses currently face? I think we answered that, but if you guys have any additional insights you would like to see to this question or not, what do you see, Khalid,
Well,
from a
from
day-to-day
us,
operation?
we do see a lot of organizations. So we protect, dozens of organizations
Right,
across different sectors.
right.
So one of the things that we notice in this, different attacks are mostly related to outdated systems, legacy systems, sometimes unpatched, infrastructure. So if patching was done properly and everything is up to date, then most of these incidents will not happen.
Hmm.
Yeah, so in its access control and patching of systems are the two main criterias that we see where the attacks are happening. So always keep your system updated.
So we'll take one last question for the sake of time. The question is related to cloud, and should we relook at security with the adoption of cloud from traditional security strategies, cybersecurity strategies, or should we be maintaining some of those strategies that you know transcended the cloud era?
Oh no, of course, you have to change your strategy. The on-prem strategy is different than the cloud strategy. On-prem, that means you are in control of everything.
Yeah.
So you have your own stack, your own, hardwares, your own teams. So by moving to the cloud, you are mitigating all of this to somebody that you trust or you're supposed to trust. But how trustworthy are
Yeah.
the people that you're contracting?
Yes.
So you need to have a strategy of governance of, having a RASI matrix between you and your cloud provider, having, different elements to monitor different aspects of your cloud security as well, especially if if the cloud provider is not in country. So imagine that we're giving the control of all our security to a foreign nation or a foreign cloud provider, and we, don't own that responsibility anymore.
Right.
That creates a lot of doubt.
So it's been an interesting conversation, but unfortunately we have to end it. I think to sum up, cybersecurity used to be looked at as a cost. Today it's a foundation for growth and increasingly a partnership. Uh, as Oman moves faster into its digital future, resilience won't be built by any one organization alone. It will be built together. At Omantel, the future, we're committed to helping Omani businesses not just defend what they have, but confidently build, what's next with world-class capability delivered locally by people who understand this market because, it's home. Thank you to our panel members. It was very generous of you to give us your time today. And thank you for everyone who asked questions and engaged. Don't forget to look at the links that we have in the Zoom resources. You'll find some very useful information there. And thank you for joining us in the second TechLive webinar. See you next time.